So how well do you know your Marvel movie and TV shows? I'm going to go through 10 Marvel properties that you may not have even realised existed. I tried to do this list in the kind of levels of well-knownness, so to speak, so number 10 being the most well-known, and I believe probably number 1 the least well-known. So please do let me know how many of these you've either heard of or seen. I'd be very curious. So let's get started. Number 10 on the list is Mutant X. Now I put this on this list because a lot of people may not realise this is actually a Marvel TV show, even though it doesn't actually feature any well-known kind of Marvel characters. Of course, Marvel had sold off the rights to the X-Men along with other kind of franchises to other film studios at the time, but they actually financed this show called Mutant X, which was created by Aaran. It ran for 3 seasons and 66 episodes and was essentially the kind of the X-Men, but they were forbidden for using actual known X-Men names, properties and kind of references, because obviously at that point Fox had the license to them. So it's a relatively well-known show at the time. As I say, it ran for 3 seasons, so most people probably have seen some of these episodes, but you may not have realised it was actually a Marvel show and maybe just thought it was some type of kind of rip-off. But no, it's actually made by Marvel. Number 9, we are talking The Fantastic Four, a 1994 movie directed by S.H.I.E.L.D. And of course this was produced by Roger Corman. Of course this is the unreleased Fantastic Four movie that has never actually got a official release, albeit you can watch it on YouTube and you know, other kind of bootleg means, for example. But it was actually a fully produced movie with the cast fully intending for it to kind of be released, not knowing obviously the shenanigans that were kind of going on behind the scenes. They're having conflicting reports whether this was actually ever going to be put out for general release or if it was always going to be simply an exercise in retaining the rights. There is some debate whether that one should be contested or not, I don't know. But yes, this is the original Fantastic Four from 1994. Number 8 on the list is Doctor Strange. No, not that Doctor Strange. We are talking the 1978 movie that stars Peter Hooton. And this one was directed by Philip DeGere Jr. and is an hour and a half long and was made as a kind of backdoor TV pilot for a potential spin-off series, which never materialised. So this kind of stood alone as a singular kind of movie where Doctor Strange has his kind of challenge against Morgan Le Fay, who is actually a character from both Marvel lore and obviously the King Arthur legend as well. Number 7 is Nick Fury, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. This is a 1998 movie that stars David Hasselhoff and was directed by Rod Hardy. It runs at 2 hours long and was once again kind of somewhat of a backdoor pilot for a potential Nick Fury kind of spin-off show, and this one again wasn't picked up, and so it just exists as a kind of a TV movie. It does have a number of recognisable kind of Marvel S.H.I.E.L.D. kind of based characters within this, and Hasselhoff I think does look the part, at least of the comics accurate kind of Nick Fury that was around at this time. Obviously most people will know these days Nick Fury as Samuel L. Jackson, but in these days Nick Fury was a kind of a white guy and looked quite a lot like David Hasselhoff, to be honest with you. Number 6 on the list is the most recent entry, and I put this on because I feel people may not realise this is a Marvel property, and that is Hellstrom. And this is a 2020 show that lasted 10 episodes and was created for television by Paul Zaborowski and is based off Damien Hellstrom, who of course is the son of Satan in the Marvel comics, one of the kind of the supernatural characters. And this one really had no kind of Marvel fanfare and was the last series to be produced under kind of the old guard before Kevin Feige, who of course is the president of Marvel Studios, took control of the TV shows as well as the movies. It really doesn't kind of feature any type of outside Marvel references, outside of obviously Hellstrom and these kind of related kind of characters like his sister, for example. But yes, this is actually a Marvel property, albeit you could be forgiven for thinking it's a straight kind of horror series. Number 5 is ManThing from 2005, and this one was directed by Brett Leonard and is an hour and 33 minutes long. It was shot in Australia, that kind of doubled for Florida. And of course, ManThing was seen recently in the Werewolf by Night kind of TV special, but here he had his own solo movie, which was played more like a kind of a horror film. It was originally made for a theatrical release, but upon seeing the results, it was ultimately just made for television. You know, ended up on just kind of being on the Sci-Fi Network, I believe. Aaran has said this one, because it was filmed in Australia, there wasn't much oversight from the Marvel kind of execs, hence why it was kind of somewhat kind of played more like a horror movie, unrelated to the actual Marvel character. Although there are a few mentions, Ted Salis is obviously ManThing's kind of real name before he became ManThing, and that is mentioned, albeit only briefly. The ManThing is ultimately one of the antagonists here, the main focus being our group of protagonists against greedy kind of land and oil developers. Number 4 is Generation X from 1996, and this one is directed by Jack Shoulder. And this was a kind of spin-off team from the X-Men, and again was developed as a potential kind of backdoor pilot for a TV show. It stars Matt Frewer as our bad guy here, and has a couple of recognisable X-Men kind of characters in it, including Banshee and Emma Frost, aka the White Queen, but focused on a group of kind of trainee younger mutants kind of first developing their powers. So yeah, this was kind of just ended up being a TV movie that was kind of released on VHS, but it's never had a disc release, it's never had a DVD or Blu-ray release, at least authentically at the very least. So that brings us to number 3, and this is the top 3 here is where I feel it gets really obscure. So number 3 is the Monster of Frankenstein, also known as Frankenstein Legends of Terror, or simply Frankenstein. This is a 1981 Japanese animated movie. Now, because Frankenstein exists in the public domain, anyone can make a Frankenstein creation, a media creation, film, comic, or TV show. So Marvel did actually include Frankenstein in the comics because it had a range of kind of horror comics, and here we have the Marvel adaptation of the essential Frankenstein story. It is more or less a retelling or a loose retelling of the original Frankenstein story, albeit it has like somewhat of a more of a Marvel twist, but it's more close to the actual original novel by Mary Shelley than anything else. Number 2, similar to Frankenstein, is Dracula, also known as Dracula, Sovereign of the Damned, Tomb of Dracula, or just simply Dracula. And this again is a 1980 animated movie made by the Japanese animation house Toei. It runs at 1 hour and 29 minutes. And unlike Frankenstein, this is not a retelling of the Dracula mythos. This is actually more faithful to the comics. That's why I put it slightly higher than Frankenstein. Ultimately, they're about the kind of the same in scarceness, though. And this really focuses on Dracula falling in love with a human woman as he unknowingly kind of rescues her from a group of Satanists. And we also have characters that are in the comics, for example, Dracula's son, and there's a variety of other kind of antagonists as well. So Dracula is played as somewhat of a anti-hero in this one, and there's a famous scene where he's chowing down on a hamburger in a fast food joint. It's quite a fun movie, and I believe you can watch this on YouTube, and there were VHS releases, and I think possibly some bootleg DVD releases as well. But number 1, the rarest, most scarce, kind of an unknown quantity in regards to, I think, the Marvel TV shows and movie, has to be Power Pack. And this is a 1991 pilot episode of a TV show that was never ever picked up. Power Pack were a group of child heroes, which seems to me the perfect fodder for a Disney Plus show, to be honest, and I wouldn't be surprised at some point if we see them. But there was an attempt at this point to kind of make a Power Pack TV show, we have our family of powered young tweens enter a haunted house in this particular episode, and it only runs for kind of like 22 minutes, I believe, something along the lines of that. And you know, again, was never picked up. This one's never been released on any type of physical media, but you can kind of watch it, I believe, on YouTube, at least currently. But because it was never really ever aired or anything, it is the sort of one I would say people know the least about, and it's probably the most unknown out of these quantity of properties here. How many of you of these properties have you seen? Have you not heard of any of them? Have you heard of some of them? Please do let me know, and I will look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.